from a different location. I'm now in a beachside place here in Massachusetts. Here is not quite the Atlantic Ocean, but basically, if we were to look out that way, that would be Boston, somewhere out there in the distance. I'm in a town called Hull, Massachusetts, where I have come to visit my aunt who lives here and see how she's doing. And so I thought that I would come and broadcast to you from here. So what's going on? How you doing? Craig, good to see you. Michael, good to see you as well. Kione, aloha to you in Thailand. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope your weekend was good. Yesterday was not able to do the live stream because we were driving up here. Brought my parents with me and we came up here to Hull to, spend a couple days. Actually, I'll be here for a couple days. My parents will stay here for the whole week. Because on Thursday, I'll fly to Los Angeles. I have an event to attend this weekend. And so we will have a live stream tomorrow, and then Thursday, and then Friday. Oh, I'm sorry, live stream tomorrow, none on Thursday, and then one on Friday. So that's going to be on the schedule for the week. But for the coffee, I actually brought some coffee on the trip, but there's no brewing here, so I had to go downstairs to a place, and they have this big old, I don't know, is it 16 ounce, 20 ounce coffee? Oh, it's a 20. This is a 20 ounce coffee from the local place here called Toast. Toast in Hull. They actually have an Instagram site, Toast Hull, and here's their coffee. It's just black, brewed in a pour over, glass pot. It's what you'd expect from diner coffee, a little bit dirty, a little bit, defecty, with some bitters. Definitely a coffee that you want to have cream and sugar in perhaps copious amounts. But one of the things that I was asking myself, I wonder if we get something to have to eat a little bit. And I was like, okay. Mom, good to see you, my friend. And I said to them, what do you have? Like, that's quick. I wanted something quick because I went down there right around 9:40. And they were like, oh, well, we have this muffin, and then we have this, some kind of like cinnamon roll kind of thing. And we have the le crookie, L-E space crookie, C-R-O-O-K-I-E, crookie. And I was like, le crookie, and she was like, point to a picture, and I was like, huh. Basically, it's a croissant that is filled with cookie dough. Oh, there's a fork in here. It's probably... Oh, it is a croissant filled with cookie dough and then baked. Took about 12 minutes to eat. This is not something you can eat with your hand, but I'm going to try it because, we're here and we might as well try it. Keone's asking, did you try the 7-Eleven coffees in Thailand? No, unfortunately, I did not have the time to try 7-Eleven coffee there. Mainly because I was only there, really, I was only supposed to be in Bangkok last summer for 48 hours. It ended up being 72 hours because I mucked up the whole visa process that I was going to use for going to Vietnam. I was supposed to go to Ho Chi Minh City, and the night before I was going to leave for Ho Chi Minh, I'm hanging out with my friend, and he's like, well, did you get your visa? And I was like, what are you talking about? And here's the crazy thing. Like, I had talked to friends who were American friends, right? American citizen friends, that I had spent like a day with, like when we were in Portland a couple weeks before, and I said, hey, I'm coming to see you. He didn't even mention anything about a visa, so I didn't think about it. And I was like, oh man. So I totally had to muck that up. And all right, so here it is. There is some kind of cookie dough. Oh, the cookie dough is not quite cooked. It's still soft, still cookie dough. Sweet chocolate, definitely in need of coffee to counterbalance it. All right, this is why I didn't ask for cream and sugar in the coffee, because this is where the sweet softness and the stuff of the croissant balances out some of the more difficult aspects of the coffee. Yeah, so like I said, I was not able to try. I'm gonna have another bite. It's actually quite good. At first, I thought the sweetness was a bit too cloying, but man, I'm coming around to it. You know. I just wish I was. This is much better if you had a table and you could actually sit there and what do you call it? And actually cut it like a civilized person instead of like being a. Instead of being brutish like me, now just chomping on it. Definitely quite good. Think of it like chocolate chip cookie dough or just cookie dough. I don't know if there's chocolate chips in it. Acting like the almond paste in an almond croissant. That's what it's like. From a mobile standpoint, I might have liked it better without all of the drizzle, the chocolate drizzle, because then you can just handhold it. Make it much easier. And Fiona says that I heard that it's better than some of the coffee shop offers. Oh, that would be significant. What I was really interested in trying in Thailand was the really more traditional coffee joints, like Kopahia Thai Tea. I went to one of those locations. I went to their, okay, I didn't go to the one downtown in the old town of Bangkok because, you know, last summer it was like 37 degrees. It was super humid when I was there, and I was like, oh man. And I was looking on Google Maps, and I was like, okay, Kopahia Thai Tea is open air. Of course, as everything in Old Town, Southeast Asia is. But I was like, I don't want to sweat. I don't want to sweat that much, all right? So I went over to the one at the park, which is just that nice fancy mall. And that's air conditioned and nicer. And so I went there and I copped out. I was being a wimp. I'll be honest. But I would like to explore more of those places, like more of the old school traditional places. Like, you know, here's the reality is that in my travels, since I've been involved in the specialty, I found that specialty shops are kind of the same worldwide. Like, yeah, they're interested in quality, but they follow a playbook. You know, for a long time, that playbook was subway tiles and, you know, copper pipe stands for people's V60s. Now it's, you know, now there's a whole nother codification and unification of what specialty is. Everyone wants geisha, everyone's florality, tea-like characteristics, you know, and it's like, and you know what, they're doing it well. Don't get me wrong, a lot of these places are doing exceptionally well. Beautiful stuff. But you know, it's not like I haven't seen that 100 times before. And so I'm like, I tend to be kind of bored. Like, Japan's a really great example. I have been to places like Kitsune, Glitch, things like that, the new school, the 100% Arabica. But you know, it's like, if I'm in Japan, I'm certainly not wasting my time to go to places that I could go to anywhere else on the planet when they have their own unique coffee culture. And I'm really interested in exploring that. And like when I'm in Bangkok, I want to explore the older school coffee culture. I do believe it's something where we need to understand where coffee came from so that we can understand more and push forward. Like in what's it called? In Kuala Lumpur, like I ended up visiting all of these kopitiams, or not a lot of them, just a couple, and this old school kopitiam style roastery that makes, what do they call it? They call it the kopi o, and it's like, oh, I don't really want to, I just want to see those places, right? Because I work in specialty. Yeah, anyway. So today's question comes from one of our viewers, and Kamryn asks, oh, where is it? I really should have pulled that up here. Anyway, so she's asking what is the best espresso machine. Now, her father evidently watches the Thursday night cigar shows. Thank you very much, Dad. I appreciate you watching and, you know, having the confidence that I could help offer your daughter some thoughts. So here's the thing. the truth of the matter is I'm a little bit, I don't know if I'm really the best person to ask, like, what is the best or ideal espresso machine for the beginning espresso enthusiast? Because I work mostly as a coffee professional. And yes, that does mean some positive things, but it also means that I'm not necessarily really paying very close attention to what's happening in the home spheres, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that are happening in the home spheres that, you know, they don't necessarily have much impact in what we need to do as professionals, so I don't necessarily follow it too closely. I end up learning about it because of people that I know, like Hoon from Hoon's Coffee. Actually, it was Hoon that posted last night, or I saw his thing this morning. Yesterday, he did a live stream about how the Breville Pro and the Breville Express are now on sale. And we'll get back to that actually. But so here's some things that kind of I think you need to think about when you're thinking about as a beginning espresso enthusiast. And this is something that's true. Some of these thoughts I think apply even if you're a coffee professional, because you know, how much budget do you have available to you? That is a big question. You know, like I can tell you all kinds of equipment that are wonderful to have that will help you make wonderful espresso, but if you don't have the resources at the moment to afford that, then none of that matters. It's just like my friend, right? He has the Kees van der Westen Spirit, right? Yeah, the Spirit. 2-group Spirit. He loves it. It's amazing. It's amazing. He's had it for 10 years or whatever. Super sexy, super expensive machine. So Kees recently announced the new Spiritello that's releasing this week in Busan. And my friend's like, dude, have you seen that? I said, well, actually, I saw the prototype when I was at the factory a couple of years ago, because Kees been working this machine for quite a while, and I got to see the Lever Group prototypes before, and I was like, oh gosh, Kees, these are super sexy. You know, Kees is he's not a budget-oriented kind of machine, right? Like, so his Spiritello, a single group espresso machine, I think they just quoted the MSRP as like $15,600. And I remember we were talking about this with my friend. Actually, it's John Piquet in Salt Lake City. He was like, I'd like to buy one. I said, well, you have $20,000. You think it'd be that much? He's like, I don't think it'll be that much. I said, well, you know, probably. He's like, no, I don't think it'll be that much. So he was right. It's only like 15.6, but 15.6 is a lot of money. So if you only have 14,000, 15.6 doesn't do you any well. And if you only have 2,000, 15.6 doesn't do you anything. So what I mean by this is that something that you need to consider is also what kind of budget do you have. And so here's the thing, when it comes to espresso, there's the machine. Most people think of the machine and they don't think about the grinder. Grinder is actually more important than the machine itself, right? Because here's the thing, you can go pretty cheap on both. But if you don't spend, and then you'll have to upgrade all of it later. Or you can kind of go heavy on the grinder, and that can stay with you for a long time. Right, so and like, machines will always get exponentially more expensive. The more you get into it, the crazier it gets, right? Like, unless you're like some of my friends that end up starting out with, and they're home guys, start out with like GS3s from La Marzocco for like, what, $4,000. Those guys are pretty much set, right? If you spend that kind of money, you're set pretty much for the rest of your life. But then again, one of my friends, he bought a GS3, and he's like, what do you think of Chiado? I was like, perfectly fine, fully commercial grinder, right? He's like, can you get me one? I was like, sure. I was like, do you want to pay that much money? He's like, sure. I was like, he's not too worried about things like that. I was like, okay, very good. And I was like, dude, he was asking me, do you think it's a good grinder? I said, dude, if you buy this as a home enthusiast, you will never need another grinder again, right? Because like at home, I have an old school Mazda Major that it's easily 20 plus years old by now. I will never replace that thing because, it's like, why do I need to replace it? It's a battle tank. Like, I use it professionally, and like, it's an awesome grinder, very consistent. And I said to him, that Chiado, you'll never need to buy another grinder. You will be dead before you need another grinder. Less than 2 years later, he's like, what do you think about these other grinders? I was like, what are you talking about, dude? And I asked Hoon about this. I was like, Hoon, what's going on here? He's like, you forget we're guys. And I was like, guys like to buy gadgets. You're right. I was like, oh, okay. So that once he said that, I was like, okay, that explains everything. But so let's see. So some comments here. Craig says, my guess is robot. See, like I said, I don't even know what a robot is. Flair 58 Pro, Flair 58, very solid choice. If you want milk drinks, Breville Bambino Plus, and a hand grinder to start or Encore ESP. See, here's the thing. I'm, you know, you guys, the guys that watch the show, you know that I'm very reticent to ever recommend hand grinders. I hate hand grinding. Like, I hate it with a passion. Like, I don't even consider it most of the time. Although I did consider bringing my Porlex on this trip, but I just couldn't find it. So I was like, oh, forget it. I'll go buy coffee elsewhere. I just think that, like, hand grinding is fine. Like, if you want to subject yourself to that level of punishment on a daily basis, especially in the morning, like, you want to get up in the morning and make espresso, and you're like, I just want to sit here and make myself miserable by grinding for the next 4, 5, 8, 10 minutes, then yes, you should definitely get one. If you haven't got by now, definitely not a fan. Buy a nice grinder, buy a nice electric grinder. Like, an electric grinder, cheap electric grinder, and by cheap, we're talking no less than $150. Like the Baratza Encore, it will work. Here's the thing, when you spend low money, right? You know, when you're buying the cheaper goods, the more affordable goods, it's great because it gives you affordability and you can get the gear. But here's the thing that I found is, like, there's less joie de vivre, there's less joy in using the lesser items. So it makes it harder. Like, you really have to be super committed to your craft in order to stick with it and just work through all of the drudgery and all of the problems that you're going to have trying to get quality espresso. It just makes life miserable. Like, when I started playing ukulele many, many years ago, you know, at the time that I started, you really couldn't buy. There weren't too many cheap. There was ultra cheap, like junky cheap, and then there was like the standard Kamaka, right, which is this amazing instrument. But I was like, man, how do I get one of these cheap? So I went to like Kamaka, and I talked to Chris Kamaka, and I was like, he's like, well, you know, we have factory seconds, and I was like, what does that mean? He's like they have little blemishes that are just not perfect, so we give a discount. Like, it was I don't remember what it was a long time. It was like 1992. And so I was like, okay, I'll buy one. And so I bought one. It was a lot of money to me at the time. Like, I think maybe the ukuleles were like $600. Maybe this was like $400. And now, you know, when you're like a 19-year-old student or 20-year-old student, you're like, oh, $400. That's like $1,000 today. You're like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. But I bought it. But the way that the fretboard, the playability is just so much nicer. Like, I had one of those King Commandment, the cheap rinky-dinky ones. You could never play that. It could never hold tune. It was terrible. It was just like, this is rubbish, you know. And like, but this, man, it just the sound, the tonality, so nahe, so nice sounding, right? And I was like, so I was able to play, and I played for a long while. I still play a little bit today. I'm more of a chalang-a-lang kind of player, not like Jake Shimabukuro. Like, I'm not that guy. Or Temane. Like, Tehane, I can't play like her. Like, those guys are amazing. They're virtuosos. I'm just a hack at it. Anyway, let's see here. Kiona says, my first espresso machine was a Flair, primarily because of maintenance, or rather very little. So the Flair, I think, is really great. Like, I think, and Flairs come in different price points, right? I think the basic Flair, the smaller size Flair, is like, what, $300-400? Whereas the Flair 58 is like, what, $700? I think the Flair 58 Pro, I saw the price the other day, $700 some dollars. And you still need to buy a grinder. That's a problem. You need to buy a grinder. But the Flair 58, I gotta say, best espresso I've ever had in 23 years of the coffee business was on a Flair 58. And I was like, holy smokes, what is going on in this? What kind of upside down pancake is this, right? So Flair 58 is very good, but you still have to buy a grinder. So back to the grinder thing. What would be a great grinder to start out with? You know, at the very least, the Encore. But I think even even though I'm a Baratza fan, even at the Encore, you would still have some difficulty getting the precise fineness of grind. Maybe the Virtuoso is better. Certainly the Forte is better. But once you get to the Forte level, you're talking like $500 or so. And now you're talking about, now you can look at grinders that are maybe pushing up to $800, which also includes like the Time More. I just saw the new Time More coming out. That looks really interesting. What is it called? The Link, I think it's called Link from Compaq. They have a new home grinder coming out. That's around that price point. The X54 from Mahlkönig might be worth considering. That the problem is also with these grinders, you're starting to talk about physicality being kind of large. And so how much space do you have at home to dedicate, or wherever you're living, to dedicate to your setup? You know, like Kamryn, I think Kamryn's in college. So if you're in college and you have a dorm room, like, you know, that your roommates might get pissed off, right? Depending on how much space you have. One thing that I think you might want to consider, and like there's a lot, like, and also how serious do you want to do espresso? Like, do you want to get there and learn how to do all this ridiculousness of grinding the coffee, dosing the coffee, putting out precise amounts of coffee into the portafilter, making sure it gets distributed around, tamped correctly and evenly, and sealed properly to pull the shots so it looks all, and try to pursue that golden, brown, reddish crema that has tiger striping. Oh, baby, that's just... In the video that came out last Saturday, where we're looking at the three Mahlkönig grinders, the X54, the E65, is that right, 65? And the E80. Mamma mia, those were delicious shots. Whew. Like that's the kind of espresso I like deep reddish brown crema, nice like long pulls with like complexity and like body and syrupiness and sweetness. Oh, mamma mia, that is just, if I could have espresso like that every day, that would be the ideal. I'm just too lazy to make it like that every day. But those grinders like the X54 take up some space. And, you know, if space is an issue, and if the actual pursuit of craft is an issue too, like you don't want to put that time, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like one of my good friends, who actually is kind of like the person that kind of propelled me into coffee, you know, he's always been an espresso person. He drinks espresso every day, but he buys the Jura X9, right? The fully automatic, because he's like, I'm like, why don't you ever he complains about it once in a while. I'm like, well, you know, have you ever thought about just getting a manual machine and learning to do it correctly? And he's like, yeah, but my wife doesn't want to do it. My wife doesn't want to get up at like 6 in the morning and do all that work. She just wants to hit the button. And, you know, that's a perfectly valid reason why you want to go with something like a super automatic. And then some of my other friends, they have like the Gaggia Animas and all those other, you know, you can get some, those machines, they're fully automatic. You hit the button, you can kind of set how much coffee you want, so you can try to pack in as much coffee. You won't get as great, like, I've played with a lot of these machines. I've played with the professional level machines, like the ones Starbucks uses, right? I've never been able to get them to this, the shots you see in that Mahlkönig video, I've never gotten to that level. Eversys, the new Eversys is close, actually will do it, but you're talking a $20,000 machine, so that's probably out of the picture. But these small ones, like, they'll deliver coffee. Maybe not amazing, but if you just need to fill that void, that could very well be the area that you need to be in. Moist Toenails, good to see you, man. Rev King, how's it going? Have I ever seen an alien? I don't believe so. And if I have, they have erased my memory. And if I've been abducted, they've erased my memory as well. So, I can't say that I have, but maybe. I do watch Resident Alien, so that's something. Michael says, that's funny, hand grinders are pretty awesome. Why write with a fountain pen when there are ballpoints? I write with a fountain pen, and I have a ballpoint. I have both, but you know what? Okay, so I just recently got an Esterbrook, right? 1940s era Esterbrook root beer pen with the bladder, right? So you have to pull that lever to fill the bladder. Yeah, that's a bit of a pain, right? Like, you get these newer ones from Lamy, and you have these, like, you know, these diaphragms you can just kind of twist a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. But you know what? The Esterbrook, not so bad. But the hand grinding, that's just too much pain for me, man. I'm just too much pain. Plus, I have PTSD trauma from when I first started in coffee, and I was the FNG that had to get up at 6 in the morning to grind coffee for all of us. Not fun, not fun. I don't have pleasant memories of grinding coffee. Craig says that my limit for hand grinding is 18 grams, certainly twice or 3 times that. Yeah, and imagine if you're this guy, you're the FNG, and there's 4 guys, and you have to make enough coffee for 4 guys in a big French press, and you're like, how much? How many grams do I have to grab? What the? And not only is that, because this is what happened when we're traveling, so it's not just 6 in the morning. It's 6 in the morning wherever in the world we might be. We were in Asia, we were in Africa, we were in South and Central America. And when you have jet lag too, you're just like, this really blows. So it's not just a dislike for hand grinding, it's PTSD also from hand grinding. From my early days of being the coffee apprentice. Oh, Kiori has the 8-string Kamaka. Oh yeah, I would look forward to that. I would look forward to that story. You know, I got an 8-string Kamaka. And I was just telling Chris this last time when I was in Honolulu. I was like, you know, is it possible? I was asking him, is it possible to like shape the neck something? Because I always feel that like the action on my 8th string, and this is an 8th string from like 1994. And so it's always been kind of hard. So my hands always feel more cramped, right? Later in 1998, I bought a 6-string Lili'u from, no, it was an 8-string. I bought an 8-string from this guy, Kavika Hurd, David Hurd, in Hilo. I'd heard about this guy, was in Hilo, and I visited him, and I strung this ukulele, and holy God, it was unbelievable. Like, it was so nahi, like it was so beautiful. The sound was like, oh my God, I have to buy it. Like, it was like $1,400 or some ridiculous amount of money. Beautifully made. I mean, like birch top, like, oh God, unbelievable. I still have it, of course, but you know, but I must say that, like, when you look at the generation of Kamaka that I have, the 90s era, and you see the new ones, whoa, man, like the new ones are really like those guys have stepped it up huge. Not just a notch, but they've like leaped over, you know, so nice to see that, nice to see that. And Craig says the Encore ESP has the Preciso burrs, Preciso burrs, and has a much better espresso range finesse than the regular Encore. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's a great, I think the Encore is still, what, $150, $175? I think that's a great choice. It's a great place to start. And then Moise says, I have a Breville Barista Express. I don't usually recommend it, though. Have a lot of grinder issues. Oh, retention being one of them. You know, I'm interested you're saying that. So Hun announced on his live stream yesterday that the Breville Express and the Pros are on sale. So I think the Breville Express is $5.59 and the Pro is $7.60 or something like that. Or maybe less, but those are good. I mean, I think those are probably good deals. And that was another thing I wanted to do. After the super, if you don't want to do super automatic, something like these Brevilles might be a nice way to go. I don't have much experience with them at all. But I did get to play with the Oracle when it first was released. This is now maybe 6 years ago or whatever. But I have to say, the shots that I was able to pull with the Oracle were really great. Like, they looked great. They poured great. Like, and that I think it has an integrated grinder and everything. So if you want to, and that's the thing, you have to buy an espresso machine and a grinder. And if your budget is limited, your space is limited, you know, maybe the Breville might be the way to go. The Breville makes nice quality stuff. And they're from Australia, so they really, and Australians are super like, what are they? They are super like, they're like, I want to say something that's not too derogatory about them, right? They are super focused on their espresso, right? Like, they think that espresso and flat white is their world. It is not. But Breville, being an Australian company, can't really release a coffee machine that is just rubbish, right? Because then the whole pride of Australia is riding on their shoulders. So the Breville, at least my experience, the Breville Oracle, which is way too expensive. I mean, that's like $2,000. Probably too, but probably the Barista Pro and maybe the Express, but Moise says that he does have problems with retention. And there's going to probably be some kind of problems with, because the proximity of the group head and the steam and the grinder is right next to each other. So there's going to be probably some kind of issue there. But, everything's about compromise, right? There's always compromise to be made, and you just kind of have to figure out where is the compromise that you're willing to live with, for what you want. Like, for example, if I must have the Case Vander Weston, then I must sacrifice somewhere, right? Like, if I'm going to spend $17,000 with shipping and all that to bring this machine to me, something has to be lost. Maybe I don't get to eat, right? Things like that, right? So you have to think about that. Oh, and Baldhead says to Moise that I think you can refit the BBX with the Etzinger Barazzo European burst. Oh, nice. And then Moise says that I think the most annoying part is that even with single dosing bezel to reduce retention, it still retains like 1 gram of coffee. It could be because of, it could be. But here's the thing, like this, especially for Kamryn, who hopefully is watching this, hopefully this will answer questions. 1 gram of retention is, something to think about. But is it really something to think about when you're just starting? Perhaps not, right? Like, the rabbit hole of espresso and coffee making is very deep. Like, you can go very, very deep and go very, very psychotic with it. For me, in my mind, for you're starting out, just trying to learn 1 gram of retention, not terrible. You just roll with it. You just got to calculate that in your mind and clear it out. They have, I guess I was going to say they have these bellows you can buy that pump it off, that push the air through it, but you can't fit that I don't think that'll fit onto a Breville because of the hopper. And then Moise says, it's really weird if I don't clean the grinder about 3 days, the grinder becomes totally unable to grind fine. Oh, I wonder if that's because of humidity buildup with some of the grinds, and maybe they're getting, I don't know, maybe, how do you rectify that then? Do you have to put rice through it and grind it, or? And then Kyoto says, I can honestly say that both the Zero and option 0001 that I have are really great grinders. I'm not even familiar with those grinders. The Zerno for home and 01 for the condo. The Zerno is Zero, not Zerno guy. I was putting the video for the Zerno together with Deb. Is it Deb? The guy's owner's name is Deb, I think. And when I was doing the actual shooting of it, I was, so part of it was I'm shooting, I'm listening enough, but because I'm having to pay attention to angle, I have to make sure you're in the frame. I'm trying to make sure the framing looks nice. I'm trying to make sure that the exposure hasn't changed. So there's a lot of stuff I'm actually thinking about and working on as I'm holding the camera, recording someone as they're talking, and I'm trying to listen with as much intent as possible. But invariably, many details are just glossed over because I just can't absorb it anymore. Right? I'm already at sensory overload. And then I'm listening to Dev in the edit, and I was like, wow, at first, because when I walked away from it, I was like, God, man, $2,200 for a grinder. That's just ridiculous. That's craziness. But as I was watching the video, looking at all the finer points, I was like, whoa, this is actually a pretty dope grinder. I was like, that's not bad a price. And actually, you can get it for the setup, as you'll see in the video, and it'll come out later this week, is $1,800, not $2,200. We're trying to calculate on the show floor, trying to figure it out. I can't, I'm not a mathematician. I'm terrible at that. And Zaki Kamal says, I bumped into this live. Hey, what's up, Zaki? Good to have you. Nice to meet like-minded people. I have a Gadget Anima. It's an automatic. Yeah, the Gadget Anima. I have a video about doing the descaling on it. A couple of my friends have the Animas. They love it. They think it's great, The Anima is a perfectly fine coffee maker. I don't know if it can make really great espresso. No offense there, Zaki. It's just that there's the nature of the beast, right? But my friends have it. They love it. And then Moist wants to know, where can I buy the Baratza burr set for BBE? I'm not sure yet, but here we go. As far as I know, the best price on burrs is from calling the Breville directly and ordering from them. They have had the parts on their website, but sometimes, oh, I see, okay. And then Baldhead says there's a world of difference between the Oracle and the BBX. The Oracle is a true double boiler, the BBX, true, but to the beginning enthusiast, I don't know if that's necessarily a big concern, right? Like, yes, for sure the Oracle, and I've only played with the Oracle, so I don't know anything really practical about the rest of them. The Oracle was really nice. It is a double boiler brewer, which means that there's a boiler that holds steam water, and there's a boiler that holds your brew water. And the two are different, right? Because you're boiling, you want to keep your steam boiler to what? 1.5 atmospheres? So roughly 240 degrees in the tank, which means that it's above boiling, right? 212 is the boiling point, 240. The 240, 250 is how much it's holding in the steam. That temperature is kept so that when it comes out, it can steam, right? Whereas the brew temperature wants to be right around 200 or below. So there's a huge disparity between the two. And like, there's many ways that different machines will compensate for this, but one of the more ultimate, and I'm only saying ultimate in quotes now because, I'm a long time La Marzocco fan, right? So like, La Marzocco or death, right? Well, maybe Keith Van Der West, and that's almost like La Marzocco. There's a symbiotic relationship there. But anyway, there are other ways of doing it. There is thermal blocks, like Craig is saying in this one, where there's I believe that's just a big block that heats, and as you push the water through, it heats the water to the ideal temperature. There's also heat exchange, where the steam boiler has the 240 and the water passes through it, and as long as the water's flowing at a good rate, it will pretty much bring it to the right temperature. But if it stops, the water in the lines that's for your brewing equalizes to the water and the temperature of the boiler. So when it comes out initially, you have to let the first, ounce or so dissipate, because that's probably too hot for what you want to do with it. But those are all advanced things. If you're just starting out, I think that it's easy just to get the Breville. It has everything in one package. And then you can learn from there. And like, there's so many things that you'll learn along the way. And I do think if you buy you really should buy a decent quality machine and setup, mainly for that enjoyment factor, so that you'll be able to stick with it and like learn more. Because you buy something that's crappy, like let's say you buy those old like Krupps, or those other ones that are like pressurized portafilters and like pressurized steam ones. Those are just, those are for people that don't want to do it. They just don't want to do it, right? They just want to put the coffee in pre-ground, lock it in, hit the button, and they'll get some semblance of coffee, right? Some semblance of espresso. If you're one of those people, perfect, go get those. That'll save you even more money. Then you don't have to buy a grinder. You can just buy pre-ground coffee. You can buy those pressurized things and just put it in there, and you're like, all good to go, right? Nothing wrong with that. Perfectly acceptable. But if you really want the craft of coffee, then it'll do you better to spend a little bit more money. And I would say buy a nicer grinder first, then get a better espresso machine as time goes by. And Craig also says to Moist Toenails, if you're single dosing, then maybe get some bellows. I guess the bellows will fit them. See, this is how little I know about that world. Sorry, I just realized that you're in Singapore. Maybe get the part number and see if you're a local distributor. I wonder though if Moist can order directly from Australia, Breville. Right? There's all kinds of, like, even, or maybe even like, are there services, like if they sell it in Australia, are there services in Australia that will forward to you in Singapore? Like I know some of my friends will buy stuff on like Amazon Japan and send it to a third-party shipper who will then, they have an account with, who will then forward it to the United States. That could be a way around it. So Zaki Kamal is asking, which single region espresso beans could you recommend? I honestly don't mind from any, as long as they give a chocolatey, nutty taste. For me, bitter and acidic isn't my. Here's something. So, Zaki, where are you? First of all, let's figure that out, because otherwise it's like if I was to tell you some American roasters, and let's say you're in another part of the world, that may not be very helpful to you. I don't know necessarily. So if you're talking about things like chocolatey, nutty, maybe a little bit of fruitiness, I don't know who to. I mean, like, I don't know necessarily if there's really many single origins that actually like fulfill that. A lot of times you have to go to like blends, and the thing about blends, a lot of people have this, especially in the specialty world. Younger generation guys have this thought of like, well, I think it's changing now, but like for the last, I don't know, 8 years, there's been this whole like, oh, only single origin is worthy, and it's like, what are we talking about? The blends are actually the more difficult one to do, because like if you're a roaster and you're like, this is a blend that we want to produce. Think about mass production, right? Think about Budweiser, which is highly maligned here by craft beer people because it's flavorless or whatever. But here's the thing, Budweiser tastes the same year after year after year, regardless of the condition of the crops that they use to make it, right? So the barley or the hops or the wheat or whatever they're using, I don't know beer, so I don't really know exactly what goes into it. Hops and barley and wheat, I believe. All of that changes. It's a crop, right? So every crop year is different. But that beer tastes the same. It's like a champagne. Dom Pérignon tastes the same unless it's a cuvée every year. There's a house style. And these guys that make it are blending the product, the raw product. In the case of like beer, I think they're finding the right whatever, wheat and hops. In the wines, they're tasting the fresh juice, and they're determining, okay, this is what we're going to put together, and it's going to taste the same. It's going to, so that people will drink it and be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want, right? Like the Bud guys are like, yeah, if someday Bud came out with a Bud that tasted like Amstel Light, they'd be like, what the hell is this, right? So that would be terrible. And if Dom Pérignon came out one year with a champagne that tasted like Asti Spumante from Martini and Rossi, all of France would light up in fire. So blends are really a great way to see the quality and the vision of a roaster. And so here's the thing. So like, let's say you want to have like chocolatey, nutty finish. You want to have a little bit of fruit in there and really good body. That roaster then has to have a knowledge and mastery of craft that they can go out and find those coffees and craft a blend that tastes like that. Then the further thing is that if they put a name to it, right, and they're like, this is our espresso, that crop availability or green coffee availability will be changing throughout the year, maybe, depending how much they bought, or it will be changing on a yearly basis because once they run out of their crop year, they got to buy new. How well can they source coffee, blend it, and roast it so that it tastes consistently the same, right? I know a lot of people for a long time thought that, oh, that's kind of boring, but really it's kind of exciting when you're understanding. It just may not have the crazy aberrations that single origin, like freaky coffees will have, but there's room for all of it, right? And Faris is with us. What's up? Oh, I'm so glad you found us, though. I'm so glad you found us. And then Moy says, I do have bells, but still has about 1 gram of retention. Oh, I'm in the UAE at the moment where it's dry and out. So UAE, gosh, who would have? You know, the thing about the Middle East is that it's pretty new school, right? It's all like, the whole specialty coffee scene in the Middle East is new. Like in the last 10 years, really. And who would have coffee that, and so because it's all new specialty, all the kids there are new. They're all very much into the new style, which is this bright, light, acidic bombs, and like, they want to get coffee from La Cabra. They want to get like, all Say and all these like light roasters, right? So that's really what they're into, right? That's so I think in your place it's going to be difficult. You might want. That's truly tough. That's truly tough. Like if you ordered from like American roasters, like I would say that, like you order from like our espresso is like that, chocolatey, nutty finish, fruitiness. But you know, other roasters that might be worth exploring might be David Schomer's from Cafe d'Arte, Cafe Vivace in Seattle, Cafe d'Arte in Seattle, also D''ARTE. Especially d'Arte has this old school like Seattle, like they use like these wood-fired Italian roasters, so there's a light smokiness that comes with it. Like these are some old school like chocolatey type of espressos. And also part of it's impacting in the Middle East is that the roast degree, they like to roast really light there, right? And so that's going to be hard. Like, I don't know who's doing anything like that in the Middle East. You could talk to, who does Michaela Ruizal is the current United Arab Emirates barista champion, and her husband work for a coffee roaster, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head at the moment. Maybe they might have something. Freddie at Grandmother's might have something. I mean, you might want to go talk to them, be like, hey, you know, do you have anything like this? And I think that's one thing that I think you should do as any enthusiast should do is like, look at your local roasters and go talk to them and ask them, hey, do you have anything like this? I'm really interested in something like that's more chocolatey and nutty. Anything fits that bill, and then maybe they can guide you. And perhaps if you, or at least maybe more people, and enough people start asking about things that maybe they'll think about more of exploring it if they don't offer it. It's been a couple years since I've been to Dubai, so I can't say too much. I'm not sure. You might also want to contact the guys at they sell all the barista gear. Oh no, my friend owns the place, and I can't remember the name of the business. And I can't remember his name at the moment. Gautam owns a place called gosh, I can't remember. It's in Dubai also, just but outside Dubai. Like it's kind of, I don't know. When I took the cab there, I was like, this feels far from my place, but maybe it was the traffic. But Gautam sells all of the barista tools and like machines and stuff like that in Dubai, and he might be a great person to ask. Which coffee roaster does this kind of work? Faris says, any of you need a beans? I can try and see if I can help. Are you, Faris is from Indonesia. Okay, excellent. Are you a grower there? Is that it? A producer there? And Baldhead says, if you're doing RDT, then do less RDT or maybe not at all. It's very humid there. Yes, it is. And I've actually not been, I've only been to Malaysia. So whose nasi lemak is better? Indonesia or, yeah. Do they have nasi in Indonesia? I don't know. Or in Singapore? Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, nasi lemak. Which is better? Or is there nasi in Indonesia? I don't know. I hope I'm not starting like tribal wars here. That's not my intention. Zaki says, but I travel for work, so I'm okay with getting anywhere. Cafe d'Arte from Seattle? Yes. Cafe d'Arte. Like Seattle's got a lot of things. d'Arte would be worth checking out. Vivace is David Schomer. He's like the godfather of espresso worldwide. Like a lot of espresso thought and theory comes from him and Ernesto Illy. Those two are probably the pico, the center of like espresso thought. Who else is good? Zoka would be a good choice in Seattle. Those are the ones I think about that are like old school style. And Craig says, most all roasters have a blend for milk drinks. Agreed, but I think that a lot of times I've had like espressos like with milk drinks, because I like to get cappuccinos. And a lot of the espressos that I've had from the newer school guys are very much like bright. So the coffee is bright and the milk, I don't like it personally, that's all. I mean, I enjoy it, but I mean, it's like, and it can be very nice, but I'm just like, I would like more chocolate and body, you know, But that's a personal preference. It's all right. Like, it's all right to you. Yeah. That's. I wish I had better information for you about Dubai. But I think that's really the situation in the Middle East. I've only really been to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and across Saudi Arabia. But it's all relative. To me, it's all been, the quality has been very good, right? Like, of coffee and espresso. It's just not that chocolateiness. Right? Like, if every time I go to, what's it called? Camel Step in Riyadh, or actually Camel Step, whether I was in Riyadh, Jeddah, or in, what's the other place on the East Coast? Well, man, always delicious, like excellently prepared. Even though I'm not a big acid guy. Fahid, how are you, man? Good to see you. Good to see you as well. All right, so that's did I answer everything? So hopefully Kamryn will find this of value. Kamryn, let me know in the comments if you need to have more questions and other thoughts about coffee. Hopefully we can answer those. Khobar, thank you. Al Khobar, which was a cool place. I really enjoyed going to Saudi Arabia. I enjoyed everywhere that we went. All the times we went. It was always really a wonderful, wonderful place. And it was really interesting because, like, I grew up in America. And, you know, when you grow up in America, there's a certain way that you're indoctrinated about the world. And the more that I've traveled, the more it's challenged my thinking, our indoctrination. And the crazy thing is that these are things that you don't really necessarily even think about. Like, I remember my first trip to Uganda. I'm in Kampala, a nice hotel. And I gotta go walk around the city a little bit. I hear it's very safe in Kampala. I'm like, all right, walked out. Of course, it's filled with Ugandans, Africans, right? They're all everywhere. And my first reaction was one of like apprehension and like defensiveness, right? Because growing up here in America, we're taught to fear black people, right? It's like, you should fear black people. Whenever you see them, they're going to get you. And it's like, whoa, we really have this training. And then when I went to the Middle East, especially to Riyadh, and I started meeting, you know, the thing about you go to Dubai, you don't really meet too many Emiratis, right? You don't really meet the locals, like, because it's so heavily populated. You mostly meet Filipinos and Indians. It's like, hey, what's going on? Let's go get some adobo, right? That kind of thing. And so, but when I went to Riyadh, of course, it's mostly local people, right? Mostly Saudis. And you're like, it's very Islamic, and it's very much what you have seen or have thought about. But it's so much more complex and so much more interesting and so much less evil than we're being presented here in the U.S. And so it's like, yes, there are certain things that may have socio-cultural impact differences, right? Like, but by the time I started going in 2018, like, a lot of that was under seismic change, and like the change year to year that I would go from like 2018 through 2022 was like, every year was just like, what? That's crazy. Awesome, but crazy. So, you know, I don't know. I think it's wonderful to travel so you can get to see people and meet people and like really understand the world from a true perspective rather than what we're being filtered here in America. But anyway, I guess that should be it. Again, Kamryn, if you have any more questions, let me know. Hopefully I didn't make you more confused, although I probably made you more confused. If that's the case, my apologies. Yeah, if you have any questions, drop more comments. We'll put that there. I'm here in Hull, the east coast of the United States. This is not the Atlantic Ocean. Well, maybe it is the Atlantic Ocean, but it's like the bay of some sort of. Boston is way over there. Oh, over there somewhere. So I'm here to hang out with my aunt and have lobster. She was very insistent on lobster last night. We were driving here, getting here like at 8:30. She was like, "We must get lobster." I was like, "Well, we can wait till tomorrow." She's like, "No, we must have it now." I was like, "All right." I'm here to obey my elders, so I'm okay with having lobster at your command. All right, so hope you guys have a great day. Good to see all of you. My gosh, so great to have all of you with us today. We do this every day, most weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern time, just talking coffee and answering questions and whatever's happening. We will have a live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m., but we will not have one on Thursday because I'll be traveling to Los Angeles. And then we will have one from Los Angeles on Friday morning. So, hope to see you all then. And hope you have a wonderful day, and see you next time.